what is an analytical method? So let's say, oh, actually, we're going to come over here after I give you this definition. An analytical method is a procedure used to analyze one or more chemical components in a sample. It's categorized by qualitative versus quantitative analysis. A qualitative analysis determines the identity of components in a sample, and a quantitative analysis determines the amount of components in that sample. So as a simple example, in this mixture, let's say each one of these different colored triangles is a different ingredient in your formula. And so a qualitative method would be able to distinguish the blue triangles from the rest of the triangles in your formula. And a quantitative method would then be able to measure the concentration of those blue triangles relative to the other ingredients in your formula. So in personal care production, we use percent as the unit of concentration. And so most of our methods serve both purposes. They are both qualitative and quantitative. And so the qualitative portion of the method would be able to distinguish the blue triangles from the rest of the ingredients. And then you'd also be able to measure the concentration. So there's 4, and since there were 10, a total of 10 in your mix, let's say that the total ingredients is 10. So the concentration of blue would be 4 divided by 10, or 40%. The concentration of purple would be 3 over 10, or 30%. The concentration of red would be 2 over 10, or 20%. And a little messy there, but you get the gist. And then the concentration of yellow would be 1 over 10, or 10%. And thank you to my kids for letting me use their magnetiles for this. Chloe's over there, she's like, yeah, those are mine. Give me those back. Alright, analytical instruments are tools that we use to separate and analyze the chemical components of samples. And some examples that we use are analytical balances for precise weighing, pH meters, glass for pipettes, and chromatography systems. For example, ion chromatography, or IC, high performance liquid chromatography, or HPLC, liquid chromatography mass spectrometry, or LCMS, and gas chromatography mass spectrometry, or GCMS. What is method development? It's the process of determining and optimizing a procedure to analyze specific components in a specific sample. This process begins with a literature search. We search the literature for similar applications to get ideas for our current application needs. Next, we develop our sample prep procedure. This includes a technique to extract components we need to analyze out of the product. In other words, isolate as much as possible from that component that we're interested in from the other components in this mixture, kind of like we did over here. And that's what you're going to learn in this demo on that side. Then we write each step of the, oh, I skipped one. This is the important one. We select the analytical instrument that we're going to use for our analysis, and we also determine the optimal settings on that instrument so that we can further separate and analyze the compounds in our prepared sample. And we develop a processing method which allows us to perform the qualitative and the quantitative analysis of the sample injection from the instrument's response, which is contained in a visible readout, which is called a chromatogram. Lastly, we write it all down in a procedure called an SOP so that it can easily be repeated. What is an analytical method validation? It's the process of ensuring your method is suitable for its intended use. And some key concepts of method validation are system suitability and precision. System suitability and precision are quality control checks that we do to ensure that instruments functioning properly and can produce reliable results for your specific analysis. Specificity is the method's ability to measure a specific component without interferences from others in the sample matrix. And components that hinder specificity are referred to as matrix interferences results, and robustness. You're here, yay! Oh, soon. Accurate precision tests demonstrate the method's ability to produce accurate and repeatable test results. And robustness measures the capacity to remain unaffected by variations. For example, if I weigh out 100 milligrams of my sample for the extraction versus 200 milligrams, do my results change, and by how much? Okay, now the fun part. James! I'm so glad he came. So James Lopez is an analytical chemist at Rhyz Analytical Labs, and he's going to help us with our demo today. So we need a volunteer to be our product formulator. The formulator, remember, determines which ingredients and how much ingredients to add to the product, and we're going to make a sunscreen. So who in the audience wants to make a sunscreen? Yeah, everyone up, please. And James can help you. So we have our sunscreen here, and then you can make a lotion, sunscreen lotion, or a sunscreen spray. It's up to you. Your choice. This is your creative moment. Whatever. And yep, you're gonna pour it in the beaker, and then James can assist you on anything. And yeah, this you can pour it into the beaker. This one you can just open it and pour it in. Whichever you want to make.
Choose whichever, yeah. Just a lotion or the spray, and you're just gonna pour it in the beaker. So essentially, you're just like forming.
And then this is to mix it.
You put a little more. Like halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Beautiful. Okay, next thing you're going to do is you're going to add your active ingredients, which are UV filters. UV filters are common active ingredients used in sunscreens. They act by absorbing UV light from the sun, thereby protecting your underlying skin from damage. And some examples that we have here are avobenzone, octoprizine, and octisaline. You can add a little bit of each of those, or one, or two, or three. It's up to you.
What's the difference?
Since different ingredients can absorb different ranges within the UV spectra, you can get a broader coverage. It's generally more effective if you use more UV filtering ingredients. And so your sunscreen will be a little bit more potent the more that you use and the more that you add. And generally we see these between like 1 to 10% in sunscreens, like each of these ingredients.
Yeah, just add whatever you.
And these raw materials are actually left over from a validation of Daydream Protection Cream, which is a Nuskin SPF lotion. Yeah, that one you might want to use this one. So octoprizine is super viscous, and so when you try to use a pipette, it kind of gets clogged in. It's hard. So you might be able to do that, or you can use the spatula. If the transfer pipette's not working, you can use the spatula. Just take a little bit of the spatula and then kind of like shake it off.
You can use the other side.
Yep.
I'm just gonna have those two.
Oh, tell us your name.
I'm Elliot.
Elliot. Thanks, Elliot. Thanks for being our formulator. Oh, no, see, you gotta do the fun part. You gotta do the fun part. Yeah, stir it. Stir it. Yep, you want it to be homogeneous. That's really important. Why do you think it's important to make your sunscreen homogeneous?
So it works.
So it works, right? Yeah? No matter where you're at in your production batch, you want it to be homogeneous, right? So that everybody gets the same coverage, no matter which bottle they buy from the store. Perfect. Okay, now the fun part. We can keep it the neutral color, or you can add some food coloring. That is from my pantry. If you want to enhance user experience.
It's gonna be blue.
Ooh, pretty. And then you're gonna mix that. I'm gonna show her. These are the essential oils.
Yeah,
Show us.
Pick a sense.
What scents? What would you pick, James?
Fragrance.
Fragrance. what would you call this sunscreen? What would you name your product?
Lemon.
What would you name this one?
I'm not that creative. Also lemon.
Lemon. I like it.
Spice it
Beautiful.
up. Lemon zest.
Ooh, there you go.
Lemon zest. I would buy that.
Except I should have dyed it yellow then.
That's what, yeah, you have to, often when you're doing product development, you're making tons and tons of batches where you're exchanging different ingredients and until you get it, the perfect product that you want. Thank you so much. Okay, you can see that. So now this is ready for, to send to your lab. You're gonna, mass produce it and send it to your lab for some development, which is gonna be me. I'm gonna develop a method for this, and then our analytical chemist, after I go through the development process, is gonna come up and extract it. So stay right here, because you're gonna help with the next one. Thank you. Okay. So once she gives it to me at the lab, I'm gonna develop and validate the methods. Remember the process. I'm gonna go through a literature search. I'm gonna develop my instrument method, develop all of the optimal settings on my instrument. I'm also going to develop an extraction procedure to extract those active ingredients out of the sunscreen. I need to come up with a sample weight, an extraction solvent, an extraction technique, and my method cleanup, which we're going to learn soon. We're going to filter our samples so that we don't clog up our HPLC system. And then I'm going to develop a processing method so that I can take that chromatogram and create my qualitative and quantitative analysis from that. And I'm going to perform a study called the product-specific method validation to ensure that my method is suitable for testing this product. Okay, next volunteer. Who wants to be our analytical chemist and extract this sample? Yes, come up. What's your name?
I'm Katya.
Katya, thank you. Beautiful name. Okay, so James is going to help you do the extraction. First, I would recommend you put on some PPE, because that's what's required in our lab. Minimum of safety glasses. I also recommend gloves. You're only dealing with water and isopropyl alcohol though, so it's up to you.
Am I doing it? Am I showing her what to do?
Yeah, go for it. Well, put your PPE on and then we're going to homogenize the sample. And then I'll just tell you each step. Thank you. So we want to homogenize it right before we weigh it out as well, so that we can also get an accurate representation of that entire production batch. So first you're going to homogenize the sample. Yep. So mix it up really well. And then normally we would accurately weigh it on an analytical balance. That's not something that was feasible for this presentation, so you can just pretend that she's weighing out. It would be 100 milligrams intercentrifuge tube. So it'll be just a little scoop.
Estimate how much 100 milligrams you can. Actually, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll just a little
So
scoop.
just get at the bottom and then just.
Good.
Yeah.
Next, you're going to perform your extraction. So you can fill to the 1 milliliter mark with water.
So we're going to use this water, and then you're just going to pick up some of this and transfer it to the water membrane. And you're going to shake it.
Yep. Okay, now you're going to fill to the 13 milliliter mark with your isopropyl alcohol. And we're going to have her shake it, but normally you would shake it and then you would also place it in an ultrasonic bath
Yeah, if you want.
to
You can
promote
just
the
kinda like-
extraction, but
you can
we don't have that today, so we're just gonna pretend that we do the extraction and they'll spawn it back.
It's easier that way. Yeah, and then you're just gonna cap it, and then you're gonna shut it up.
That's a good analytical chemist right there. She's looking to make sure she filled it to the right mark. You're hired. Great. Okay, so then you put it in your ultrasonic bath, but we don't have one, so we're gonna skip that step. And we're just gonna do the cleanup.
So you're gonna grab one of those syringes. Mom's gonna grab one of these filters.
This is a 0.2 micron filter.
You're gonna take some of the solution up in the syringe, and then you're gonna spill down. It'll just twist off. Actually, there you go. Yeah, you can do a little more. Perfect. And then you're gonna put in your vial. Just put everything on top. And then just everything, yeah. There we go. Yeah, sometimes the filters are a little like clogged or I don't know what.
They're doing their job. Because
Yeah.
they're getting all that junk that would be clogging up all of the little small tubes and your analytical column, which is what you use to determine what pore size you want for your filters. It's getting all of that junk out so it doesn't clog up your system. Because that is not fun. We'd rather do it before we put it onto the analytical system rather than doing all that troubleshooting later. Okay, perfect. Your sample is ready to inject onto the system. We don't have an HPLC, but we're gonna pretend. See, there it goes. There, it created this beautiful chromatogram. You did great. Thank you. Thanks for your help. Thank you. You can sit down now with you. Thank you so much. Beautiful. So at this point, you have your sample. You're gonna run some UV filter calibration standards, and then plot their responses relative to their concentration to make calibration curves for each one of those active ingredients. And then you'll inject your sample and get a beautiful chromatogram. And depending on where that response of your sample falls on your curve, you can quantitate it relative based on this standard curve, just using y equals mx plus b. That's most of the math that we have to do, is dilutions and some algebra. Which I love. I don't want to do more than that. All right, and then you're going to process the data like I just talked about, and then you're going to report your results to your customers. All right, so one thing that I really like about my job is I get to work with a lot of different chemistries and analytical methods, and I really like the fast pace, so if that's something for you, then this might be a good job for you. I like to jump around from one project to another, so here are some examples of some of the projects I've worked on in my career. I developed a method to test UV filters in sunscreens, and this method has worked for every sunscreen product that we've ever tested it on, indicating high levels of robustness. And it's used to test every sunscreen sample that we receive for UV filters testing in our lab. And I was really blessed with the opportunity to collaborate with Agilent Technologies, the company that designs and produces the HPLC systems that we use for this testing, to publish this method. And it's available on the Agilent applications library so that other people can use it to support their method development. Okay. Another major focus of my career has been to update traditional or outdated LC methods to improve efficiency, cost effectiveness, and sustainability. And I collaborated with Agilent to publish an example of this method updating process and how it helped us to resolve challenges of outdated methods to test a multi-symptom relief cream. And this paper can also be accessed on the Agilent applications library. And the content can also be viewed in the form of our on-demand Technology Networks webinar on their website. I developed and transferred methods to test the active ingredients in toothpaste, including this lovely Nuskin AB24 whitening fluoride toothpaste that you can take home with you today. And I developed methods to screen, which is just another way to say test for trace levels of contaminants, APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredient adulterants, and dietary supplements. And currently, I'm working on a screening method to analyze pesticide residues in botanicals by LCMS. And I'll show you where I'm at in that process. Pesticide residues are trace amounts of pesticides that remain in or on botanical, which is just plant material, after it has been grown, harvested, and or processed. It's regulated by government agencies to ensure food safety. Regulatory bodies like the U.S. Pharmacopoeia or USP set the maximum residue limits, or MRLs, legally permitted amounts, which are legally permitted amounts of pesticides that can remain in or on food, ensuring they're not at unsafe levels for consumption. These are the controlled pesticides and their MRLs per USP General Chapter 561, which sets the standards for quality testing of botanicals in the U.S. And obviously you can't read every line here. This is just to show you how complex and labor-intensive this testing is. And each sample has to be tested for about 100 different compounds. And they're color-coded here based on which method we're developing to analyze them. And they're pretty much split 50-50 between an LCMS method and a GCMS method, except for the two loners on the bottom, the inorganic bromide by ion chromatography and dithiocarbamates by GC and space. The method that I'm working on is very much like a needle in a haystack. The hay represents the sample matrix, or all the different compounds in the plant material, and the needle is the pesticide residues. But it's more like it's pins, because I'm trying to find 51 different pesticides in that haystack. So the different colored needles here represent kind of like all the different species of pesticides that I want to be able to find if present in that sample. And the magnifying glass is like the analytical method that I'm using to identify and quantitate each of those pesticide residues. And the analytical instrument that I'm using is a LC turboquad. It's a very, very sensitive mass spectrometer. To complicate things further, I'm trying to get this method to work on any botanical or related matrix we receive for pesticide testing. So these are the samples that I'm using as representative matrices for my validation study. Bromelain, which is from pineapple, yerba mate leaf, bilberry, G3 juice, which is a really nutritious and tasty antioxidant juice that Nuskin makes, fish oil and olive oil, and reishi mushroom extract. So it's like I'm trying to make a method that not only can find a bunch of different needles in a haystack, but a bunch of different needles in a bunch of different kinds of haystacks. And typically the more pigmented or darker in color your sample is, the more matrix interferences it has and the harder it is to analyze it. So you can guess which matrix is the hardest. Which one do you think? The reishi, the reishi mushroom. And that's why I tried to make it look very dark and mysterious and spooky. So it's appropriate for Halloween coming up soon. The LCMS method that we developed provided an LOQ of each compound at or lower than the acceptable limit per USP 561, and this indicates that method sensitivity is acceptable for pesticide analysis. No pesticides were detected in our 7 representative matrices. To test method accuracy, standards for the 51 pesticides were spiked into the extraction of each matrix at a known concentration, 10 ppb per compound, ppb parts per billion. The The amount determined in each spike matrix by LCMS was calculated relative to the spike level to get the percent recovery of each compound, and the recovery of each pesticide fell within the USP 561 acceptance criteria for accuracy of 70 to 120% in all 7 test matrices. To test method precision, 6 replicate bilberry, G3, olive oil, and reishi samples spiked at 10 ppb were prepared and analyzed, and the results of the replicate sample preps met the USP 561 acceptance criteria for repeatability of less than or equal to 20% relative standard deviation. A few weeks ago, I found a very mysterious reishi sample left over from my former coworker, Chad Nelson, after he retired. And on the side of the tube, it said, reishi contains pesticides, in all caps. It was very mysterious indeed. But I was so excited, because it was the perfect sample to test my method on, because I was going in completely blind. I couldn't wait to run it. So I ran it. This is our 10 ppb mixed pesticide standard solution containing all 51 pesticide targets that I'm looking for, just showing it here for reference. And here is the chromatogram of our sample, our mysterious reishi sample, where I found trace levels of 6 insecticides. Malathion and piperonil butoxide were detected at levels less than their LOQs. Remember LOQ? What is it? Limit of quantitation. Very good. I think that's what you're saying. And lambda, cyhalothrin, cypermethrin, and prophenophos were detected at their MRLs. And dimethoate was determined at 2 times higher than its maximum residue limit. It was very spooky indeed. So if you're a nerd like me and you want to do nerdy projects like this, you are in luck, because we are launching our new BYU student internship program coming this winter semester. The applications are opening up. We're waiting for one more person to hit the button. And they're going to be poked, right? You said they're going to be poked to do it. Okay. The applications are going to close mid to late November. And this is because we want to get everybody hired and not onboarded, just hired. But before the holidays start. So we can get you working by the first week of winter semester. The interns are going to work 15 to 20 hours per week up to 2 consecutive semesters, and you get course credit for it, plus $19 per hour. Huge thanks to Nuskin and to BYU for co-funding our interns. You'll also receive career mentoring, so you're going to be paired up with a mentor. One of those is going to be me, and another one's going to be Tyler. So hi, I'm a mentor. My coworker Tyler Westover just brought his dog in for a really intense surgery, so he didn't get to be here today. Here are the general requirements. Currently enrolled as a full-time undergrad at BYU. You're required to register for Chem 496R for the duration of the internship program. You have to be pursuing a degree in a relevant STEM field, and completion of at least 2 years of relevant undergrad coursework is preferred but not required. If you need more information, please contact Anna or me or our job recruiter, Sydney Tuft. And I'm going to turn the time over to her to talk about the job recruiting process and some perks of working as an intern for Nuskin.
So there's a couple of things. I cannot call you without your information. So if you're interested, the first thing you have to do is apply. I'm going to make your life really easy. I have these really beautiful QR codes. You'll notice there's 2. Rhyz Labs they're part of our subsidiaries. They have their own careers page. We also have a Nuskin's careers page. This will most likely be on the Nuskin's page, but you might want to just check both. We also hire for other things. If you have friends that are interested in other things, you can just pass this right along. So you're going to apply there. You're going to follow all the steps. You're going to read all the questions really well. There are some questions that if you answer wrong, the system will automatically remove your application. So if you say, no, I'm not willing to take a background check, I won't even see you. So make sure you read everything well. You you select all the right answers, all the accurate answers, and that you're not just clicking through because the system does not like that. So you're also going to include a cover letter, an unofficial academic transcript, and then 1 to 2 professional references. In your application, there'll be a spot where you can just upload a resume as well as other things, so please include those. If you don't, when I call you, I'm going to ask you to send them over to me via email, and we'll have a fun time of me trying to tell you what my email is, and then you trying to write it down and hopefully getting it right so you can send it over. So, once you've applied, I will call you, we'll go over the details of this internship again, what the hour requirement is, what the pay is, all of that fun stuff. This is my cell phone number. This is a work phone number. I only answer between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can text me after I've called you or before, if you have questions before that. And then once you get an application in, you can text me for updates. We're hoping to move this along pretty quick. If I call you and leave you a message, please don't call me back 10 times in an hour. I will not answer. If I didn't answer the first time, probably won't answer the second time. I'm probably in a meeting. Feel free to shoot me a text and we'll work out a time to talk. Other than that, let's talk a little bit about what you can see as what you get as an intern. So interns typically aren't eligible for paid time off, but you do get some other things. All of our employees get a monthly product allowance, which you will be eligible for as an intern. So you can spend that product allowance. It comes in the form of points. When you're onboarded, I'll teach you how to use it if you're offered the position. And then you can just get whatever you'd like, try whatever you'd like. You get that the whole time that you're an intern. You also get to participate in all of our employee events. So this month we're going to do pumpkins at the end of the month. They're going to give everybody a pumpkin to decorate and bring back. And then we do also have an on-site gym that you will be able to use, which is pretty great. I don't know how many of you pay for gym memberships, but I hate them. And this is a great alternative. And then we also have some on-site food options. And then we do also have a 401k and a 401k match. Even though you're an intern, it might be worthwhile. So that's all the things that you can expect as an intern. We do also do lots of other things. The labs department is really fun to work in. So you get lots of hands-on experience and you're gonna have great mentors. I think that's all my information.
Didn't you say interns were like your favorite part?
That's right. Interns are my favorite part of my job. The interns are the best. We really love our interns. We love getting to offer this opportunity to students, and we love getting to have students on our campus. They just bring the funnest energy, and they make my day. Some of them are crazy, and some of them are normal, and they're all just so fun. So they are the best part.
Thank you so much, Denise. And then she'll have the QR codes for anyone who's interested, or if you want to grab one for friends who might be interested, please do. Now we're going to do our virtual lab tour, and Brandon and James, these are two of my colleagues. If they want to chime in here, please do. Thank you. Okay, so this is our balance room where we weigh out our sample. Like if we're weighing out our sample of sunscreen for an extraction, this is where we would do it. This is one part of our chemistry lab. Over here you can see our ion chromatography systems. This is where we test the ions in take samples. Oh, and we have the LCMS right here, LCMS. This is where Brandon is developing his really awesome vitamins method. It's going to test a whole bunch of different vitamins and some of our dietary supplements. Over here we have some of our HPLC systems. These are adjuvant systems where we test our sunscreens, these two right here. And then these are waters, that's just the manufacturer. They're waters, HPLC systems, and those are generally used for testing active ingredients in our dietary supplements. Over here we have some more HPLCs and UPLCs, which are just HPLCs that can handle higher pressures. And over here, and then some more HPLC instruments for the dietary supplement testing. And then over here we have a GC gas chromatographer right here. the cooling effect when you suck on a cough drop. And then right next to it is used for testing various things, including your fatty acids in the fish oils. Here's another chemistry lab. This is where I've been sitting for a very long time because that's the computer I use to run my LT triple quad here, which is where I'm running the pesticide screening method. And then this is our GC headspace. This one we test for contaminants like residual solvents that are things that are not supposed to be in products like sunscreens. And then we'll also be using this instrument for the dithiocarbamates method. That was the one of the loner pesticides that's on its like own method. And then we have our ICP-MS. Do you want to say anything about that, James? He's our ICP-MS expert.
Yeah, so we run like heavy metals and minerals on that instrument, and it just uses like a plasma to essentially, so you digest your sample completely in a microwave, and then you put it through the instrument, and then the plasma basically burns everything off and just shoots the
elements.
elements
Yeah,
through, and then through the detector, and that's how you get the label claim. So when it says like 30 milligrams of potassium in a sample, that's how it's tested.
Perfect. That's perfect. Thank you. Okay, these are our lab benches. So we kind of simulated that here. This is where we are doing our sample preparation. Lots of fun things to play with as a method developer there. And our fume kits, because we are so safe. We follow all the safety protocols. And Tyler, your other mentor, he's actually our safety officer, so he can tell you more about that when you meet him. All right, this is our chemical storage. This is where you'll get your standards that you'll run to calibrate your instruments. Will be over here, and also any other reagents that you need for your sample prep and your sample analysis. We also have a microbiology lab. Maybe one day we'll get to open up an internship opportunity there. That would be great. Because they need help. That pretty much every sample has to be tested for micro. They're very busy in there. And this is our office space. So you could sit here. This is where our interns do sit. You're gonna sit. James is like over here, if you can see in the picture, and then the interns are gonna be somewhere over here. You get to be right by a beautiful window. And now I just need to thank a lot of people. Thank you, BYU Chemistry and Biochemistry, for giving this opportunity to be here today with you. Special thanks to Anna Kennington and Richard Watt. This internship was their idea. I'm so grateful for them and all the hard work that they put in to make this program possible. I thank Dr. Price, who couldn't make it today because he has a family emergency, and Dr. Lynn, who have been my mentors and inspired me with their good examples in many ways and their dedication to BYU, to their work, to their students, and to their discipleship as followers of Jesus Christ. And I like the nerdy projects, but the best part of my job is definitely the people that I'm blessed to work with. So huge thanks and shout out to my Rhyz Labs and Nuskin teams, to Tyler Westover, to Hui Zhao, she is my manager, to Brandon, who's up here, Glenn Putnam, our director of Rhyz, James Lopez, and these people, like, they're so busy working in their lab, working in the lab or doing their own responsibilities, and when I need help, like, they will drop anything they're doing to come help me. Like, that's the kind of people that I work with in my lab. I want to thank my Heavenly Father and His Son, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for the countless blessings that they have Daniel and Steve Patchett and Josh Wilson of Nuskin. They have been so supportive in this internship program, and also they made it possible for the product donation that you can come and pick up on your way out. Okay, now back to Q&A. Yeah?
How did you get involved in this industry?
Oh, good question. Okay, so I worked in the JC Price lab on this floor just down the hall. And I did foundational cancer research using LCMS to do proteomics and lipidomics to understand how basically metabolic remodeling of protein and lipid metabolism in cancer cells. And then, but I always wanted to work in skincare because I was diagnosed with autoimmune skin disorder at the age of 12, and just like it was a big struggle for me. So I always wanted to look for ways, non-toxic ways to produce and be involved in effective skincare solutions. But I had these LCMS skills that I worked really hard on to learn in grad school, and then I also had this interest in skincare products and working in the beauty and wellness industry, and I'm also like a super health nut. I'm so sorry to my husband. Like the day I told him, I was like, I'm gonna be vegan, he was like, oh, I was thinking of going on a carnivore diet. Okay. So we're so optimists, but like, yeah, so this company is like, it is like exactly a perfect fit for me and like my skill set and also my interests. It marries the two. And so I got my PhD in biochem in the JC Price lab, and then I worked at Wasatch Product Development, which is a sister company of Nuskin, and they hired me because they needed someone to develop the sunscreen methods. And then 2 years later, Rhyz Analytical Labs started up. That was in 2021. And they basically wanted to consolidate all of their chemists and microbiologists from their sister companies and join them to make this super lab, Rhyz Analytical Labs, because they already had state-of-the-art equipment, technology, everything that we needed at Nuskin, and we brought us all together, and then I got to meet